Chapter 13. Arya woke the next day with a faint smile on her lips. She had dreamt of her mother. In the dream, it was just another ordinary morning. She lay curled beneath her blankets while her mother tried endlessly to wake her. Gentle calls turned into playful scolding, but nothing worked. Finally, her mother leaned down and kissed her cheek. The warmth of that touch lingered so real that Arya almost believed she could still feel it. But when she opened her eyes, the room was silent. Her mother was gone. The warmth had vanished with the dream. The first light of dawn was creeping across the sky. Arya stepped out into the gallery for fresh air. The cool morning breeze brushed against her skin. She felt much better today. It had been nearly 3 days since she had fled the palace. By now, everyone must be searching for her mother most of all. The thought tightened her chest. Her mother must be weeping. Her only daughter had vanished without a word. Arya quickly wiped the moisture gathering in her eyes. She stepped back inside. There was no time for tears. She had to find a way out of this castle. The fact that she had not yet been thrown into prison was a good sign. Perhaps Arnav had believed her story. All she needed to do now was thank him for saving her, and politely request permission to leave. After all, she had presented herself as nothing more than a worthless maid. Why would a prince bother keeping someone like her? After washing and getting ready, Arya approached the guards outside Arnav's chambers and asked if she could meet His Highness. The answer was immediate. No. The prince did not meet every servant who demanded his time. Refusing to give up, Arya waited outside the chamber doors. An hour passed, perhaps 2. Just when she began to lose hope, Kabir appeared in the corridor. She hurried forward and blocked his path. "Good morning," she said brightly. Kabir glanced at her briefly before looking away. "What do you want?" His tone made it clear he saw her as nothing more than an inconvenience. Arya forced a polite smile. Beggars could not be choosers. "Could I please see His Highness? It will only take 5 minutes, I promise." "His Highness has more pressing matters." Kabir stepped past her and entered the chamber before she could say another word. Still she waited. Surely Kabir would mention her presence. Surely Arnav would grant her a few moments. Half an hour passed. Her hope slowly began to fade. She had just turned to leave when one of the guards called out. "His Highness will see you now." Relief flooded through her. The great doors opened. Arya stepped inside. Arnav sat behind a large study table reviewing a pile of documents. Kabir stood beside him. Both men looked entirely occupied. She bowed deeply. Arnav did not acknowledge her presence. He spoke without even looking up. "Kabir, send a message to Nisha. Ask if she requires assistance with her mission." Arya froze. Mission? What mission? Was he planning something? Arnav finally looked up and met her eyes. He had clearly noticed her confusion. "What do you want, servant girl?" The words landed sharp, deliberate. For a brief second, something in his gaze lingered. Measuring. Arya felt her fingers curl slightly, but she forced herself to remain still. "I wish to thank you for saving my life." "Is that all?" He waited a moment. "If so, you are dismissed." "No." The desperation in her voice made something flicker across Arnav's face. Exactly the reaction he wanted. "I also wish to ask if I might return." "Return?" Arnav leaned back slightly. "Return where?" "To my parents." "My home," Arya said quietly. Kabir spoke before Arnav could respond. "Did you not say you were exiled from the kingdom?" The question made her feel painfully small. "Yes," she admitted. Arnav's lips curved faintly. "Then where exactly do you intend to return?" Arya opened her mouth, but no words came. Arnav continued smoothly. "Surely, you would not wish to endanger your parents." "If the king's soldiers discover that you return to your village," he said calmly, "they may imprison everyone there. And that would be assuming King Sudhanshu is feeling merciful that day." Arya's stomach dropped. She could never allow that to happen, not to Priya's parents. She needed another excuse. Fast. Kabir suddenly clasped his hands together. "Oh, how tragic," he said dramatically. "Can we not save this poor girl, Your Highness?" Something inside Arya, burned at the false sympathy in his voice. I am sure one more servant in this enormous castle will not be a burden, Kabir continued. Arnav pretended to consider this. Perhaps. His cold eyes settled on Arya. I was in fact looking for a new attendant. The exchange between the two men felt almost rehearsed, but Arya tried to protest. Take her to the castle's chief supervisor, Arnav ordered. Have her trained properly. I cannot say yet if she is fit to serve, but we shall give her the opportunity. His gaze remained fixed on her. You are dismissed. Of course, Your Highness, Kabir said smoothly. He turned toward the door. Arya had no choice but to follow. As she stepped out, she glanced back once more. Arnav had already lowered his head, burying himself in his documents again. But there was the faintest hint of satisfaction on his face. Chapter 14. May I come in, Chief Supervisor? Kabir asked politely. Who is it? Kabir. Come in, come in. Mrs. Sharma emerged from the inner room. You know you never need permission here, dear. Kabir hugged her warmly. At 60, Mrs. Sharma still carried herself with remarkable dignity. Her spine was straight as an arrow. She wore a simple cotton sari, her silver hair neatly tied back. Sit please, she said, gesturing to a chair. Mrs. Sharma apologized for calling Kabir by his name. Nonsense, he replied. To me and His Highness, you will always be our first governess. Mrs. Sharma smiled softly. I still remember chasing you two boys through the palace courtyard, she said. And now look at you. Kabir smiled. I did not know you had taken over as chief supervisor here. His Highness and I were quite surprised. Mrs. Sharma sighed lightly. It was a surprise for me as well. His Majesty, the King of Matsya, requested that I transfer here immediately. He said the prince was to be married, and since he himself could not attend, he wanted someone he trusted to ensure everything was in order. She lifted her shoulders slightly. How could I refuse a personal request from the king? Kabir chuckled. I'm certain His Highness will be delighted to see you. Oh, that boy. Mrs. Sharma shook her head fondly. Still as impatient as ever. I must visit him soon. Only then did Kabir suddenly remember Arya. She had been standing quietly in the corner the entire time, staring down at the cold floor. Awkward. Forgotten. Now tell me, Mrs. Sharma said, pouring tea into 2 cups. To what do I owe the pleasure of this visit? Oh, right. Kabir gestured toward the corner. Mrs. Sharma, meet Priya. His Highness recently hired her as a personal attendant. Mrs. Sharma's gaze slowly settled on Arya. She claims to have worked in Sagarketu's palace. Kabir continued. Serving the princess, who is meant to marry His Highness. Oh, really? Mrs. Sharma said pleasantly. How interesting. His Highness asked that the chief supervisor train her properly before she begins serving him. Now that you are here, I'm sure he will have no complaints. Of course, Mrs. Sharma replied calmly. I will see to it. Kabir finished his tea quickly and stood. Thank you, Mrs. Sharma. I'll leave her in your capable hands. He departed just as quickly as he had arrived. Arya remained where she was, standing silently in the corner. For a moment the room was quiet. Then Mrs. Sharma slowly turned toward her. Do you plan to stand there all day? The warmth in her voice had vanished. Arya stiffened. My name is Mrs. Sharma, she said evenly. I am the chief supervisor of this castle. Her gaze was sharp enough to cut through stone. Are you mute? No. No, Arya stammered. Good, Mrs. Sharma turned toward the door. Follow me. Chapter 15. Listen to me very carefully, Mrs. Sharma said sharply. I will not repeat myself. Arya straightened instantly. We are currently standing on the lands of Chandravarta. A vast valley separates this kingdom from Sagarketu. Mrs. Sharma walked ahead while she spoke, expecting Arya to follow. Our late queen, His Highness's mother, was a princess of Chandravarta. After her marriage to the king of Matsya, Chandravarta remained one of our strongest allies. Her voice softened slightly. Our queen loved nature deeply. She chose this very location overlooking the valley and asked her father to build a castle here when she was just a kid. Mrs. Sharma gestured toward the tall stone walls surrounding them. She had exquisite taste. Every corridor, every chamber, every garden in this castle was designed under her careful eye. It became a symbol of friendship between Chandravarta and Matsya. They walked slowly along the long stone passage. When His Highness was young, the royal family would spend months here. It was a place of laughter, rest, and peace. Her voice hardened again. But when our queen departed for heaven, the king was never the same. He never returned here again. The footsteps echoed faintly through the corridor. The castle remained closed for years. Until very recently. Mrs. Sharma paused briefly before continuing. His Highness reopened it when he decided to prepare for war against Sagarkidu. This location provides the perfect vantage point to observe the enemy kingdom. Arya walked silently behind her. The mother wanted peace. The son wants bloodshed. What irony. This castle has 2 wings, Mrs. Sharma continued as they approached a staircase. The east wing is for guests, visiting dignitaries and administrative offices. She turned left. The west wing is reserved exclusively for His Highness and members of the royal family. Her gaze flicked briefly toward Arya. You will be serving in the west wing. They climbed down a wide staircase. On the first floor you will find the royal laundry, followed by the royal kitchen, where meals for the royal family are prepared. Mrs. Sharma stopped walking and looked directly at Arya. If you are not part of the culinary staff, you are not permitted inside the royal kitchen. Her tone left no room for argument. No exceptions, Arya nodded quickly. Mrs. Sharma continued down toward the basement. This level is reserved for servants. As they stepped inside, Arya immediately noticed the difference. The bright warmth of the upper halls vanished. The air here felt heavier, colder. This is the servants' hall, Mrs. Sharma said. A space for them to gather. She pointed toward another doorway. That leads to the servants' kitchen. Another corridor. And beyond, that is the servants' laundry. The entire place felt dull and lifeless compared to the upper floors. Even though the day outside was bright, the basement seemed permanently trapped in shadow. Arya slowed unconsciously. Mrs. Sharma noticed immediately. Pick up the pace, she ordered. Arya hurried forward. Mrs. Sharma stopped in front of a row of narrow doors. These are the servants' attics. The higher your rank, the better your quarters. Her gaze moved over Arya briefly. Since you are new, this will be yours. She pushed open an old wooden door with sagging hinges. It creaked loudly. A stale, musty smell filled the air. The room was small. Very small. A single narrow bed stood in one corner. A wooden cupboard stood beside a small window. That was all. Arya stared silently. Back in Sagarkidu, her bathing chamber had been larger than this room. Mrs. Sharma turned toward her. Any questions? Arya said nothing. For the first time since her escape, the consequences of her lie were beginning to sink in. Pretending to be a maid and actually living as one were 2 very different things. Regret settled heavily in her chest. Good, Mrs. Sharma said briskly. The cupboard should contain a few uniforms prepared for you. She stepped back into the corridor. Change quickly and meet me at the royal laundry. She paused. Do not keep me waiting. Without another word, she left. The room fell silent. Arya slowly sat down on the narrow bed and stared up at the ceiling. For the first time since arriving at the castle, she had absolutely no idea what to do next. Chapter 16. It was a bright, sunny morning. Arya stood in the corridor outside Arnav's chambers, beside Mrs. Sharma. The past 2 days had been brutal. Mrs. Sharma had put her through relentless training. Arya had scrubbed hardwood floors, folded delicate laundry, and chopped fruits and vegetables for royal meals. Her day began before dawn and ended close to midnight. By the time she returned to her quarters, she was so exhausted that she often skipped dinner and collapsed onto the narrow bed like a lifeless body. Before she could even think about planning an escape, sleep claimed her completely. It felt like an endless cycle. The guards opened the chamber doors. Mrs. Sharma walked in confidently. Arya followed behind her like a wind-up doll. Arnav stood on the balcony overlooking the courtyard, still dressed in his night clothes. A cup of coffee rested nearby, its warm aroma filling the room. "Good morning, Your Highness," Mrs. Sharma greeted in her formal voice reserved for royalty. "Mrs. Sharma," Arnav said pleasantly as he turned around. "It truly is a beautiful morning. How may I help you?" His gaze shifted toward Arya. For a brief moment he did not recognize her. She looked different. The girl standing before him seemed drained of all energy. Her uniform hung loosely on her frame. Did she lose weight? He wondered. Or is the uniform simply too large for her? Arya stood silently, staring at the floor. Mrs. Sharma cleared her throat. "Your Highness, I do not wish to question your judgment," she began carefully. "But I do not believe this girl is suitable to be your attendant." Arnav raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Well," Mrs. Sharma sighed in frustration. "Where do I even begin? I asked her to scrub the floors. She used bathing soap instead of floor cleanser. It took her nearly 3 hours to clean a single bathroom." She shook her head. "And when she finished, I discovered she had used a hardwood floor brush on the bathtub. The tub is now covered in scratches and will likely need repairs." Arya stood silently as the accusations continued. She was too exhausted to feel embarrassed anymore. Mrs. Sharma continued. "I assigned her to the laundry next. She mixed the white garments with colored ones. She left delicate fabrics drying under direct sunlight. The laundry chief told me his staff had to work double shifts to undo the damage." Arnav pressed his lips together. Mrs. Sharma's voice lowered slightly. "And the worst part, she used the same knife to chop aromatics and fresh fruit. The chef discovered the fruit salad smelled like garlic." A strange sound escaped Arnav's throat. He quickly turned away, pretending to cough, but the laughter bubbling inside him refused to stay contained. Arya noticed. "Look at this sadist," she thought bitterly. "Enjoying my misery." Perhaps the rumors about his cruelty were true after all. Mrs. Sharma frowned slightly. She had expected irritation from the prince, perhaps anger, but not quiet amusement. That was unexpected. "Mrs. Sharma," Arnav said, finally regaining control of his voice, "I am terribly sorry you had to endure this nightmare. It seems Sagarkidu's palace does not train their servants very well." A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Imagine the chaos we will inherit once we conquer them." Mrs. Sharma nodded thoughtfully. "Your Highness, I would need at least a month to train her properly. In the meantime, I can recommend a far more capable attendant for you." "That will not be necessary." Both women looked at him. Arnav spoke without hesitation. "She will begin serving me today." Mrs. Sharma blinked. For a moment, she wondered if she had misheard him. The Crown Prince of Matsya, a man determined to conquer kingdoms, had just chosen the most incompetent maid in the castle as his personal attendant. And somehow, he looked pleased about it. Chapter 17. Arnav sat at the long dining table. The royal chef had prepared at least 10 different delicacies for breakfast. Savory pastries, spiced vegetables, sweet breads, fresh fruits, and fragrant stews. The rich mixture of aromas filled the room. Arya could feel her mouth watering. She had been tense since the moment she woke up. Mrs. Sharma had warned her that today Arnav would evaluate her performance as his attendant. The anxiety had completely ruined her appetite. She had barely managed to swallow a piece of fruit. But now that the evaluation and the humiliation was over, her body was beginning to rebel. She was starving. All she wanted to do was sit at the table, taste every dish, and ask for more of the ones she liked best. Instead, she stood silently beside Arnav's chair. Arnav, meanwhile, seemed completely uninterested in the feast laid before him. He had asked for nothing but black coffee and a bowl of fresh fruit. What a waste, Arya thought bitterly. Black coffee has clearly blackened his soul. Arnav lifted his cup. Coffee. Oh no, thank you, Arya replied automatically. I'm not a big fan of black coffee. The words escaped her mouth before her brain could stop them. Silence fell across the room. Several guards and servants turned their heads toward her in shock. Arya froze. She had forgotten. She was supposed to serve him, not chat with him like an equal. Arnav's eyebrow furrowed. Did you think I was offering you one? His voice was dangerously calm. No. I mean. Arya stammered. Pour me another cup of coffee. The command was cut cleanly. As she reached for the pot, her fingers trembled. Do not forget what you are here for. Arya's grip tightened slightly around the handle. You are here to serve, not to speak unless I ask you to. For a brief moment, Arya felt his eyes linger on her. Longer than necessary. Then he leaned back as if nothing had happened. Her face burned, but she kept her movements steady. After breakfast, Arya followed Arnav out of the dining chamber. He was tall and walked quickly. She had to take nearly twice as many steps just to keep up. He did not slow down. She prepared the bath and waited outside. Arnav entered the chamber. He was about to step in when he noticed the steam rising from the tub. The water. It was too hot. Priya, Arnav snapped. Arya stepped in immediately. Yes, Your Highness. You prepared this. Yes. And you tested it. Arya fell silent. Arnav waited a moment. Then he took her wrist and drew her hand toward the surface of the water, close enough for the heat to press against her skin. Arya flinched, instinctively trying to pull back. Your Highness. Please. Stay, the word was quiet, unyielding. Feel it. Her breath caught. Do you understand what would have happened? He said evenly. If I had stepped in without checking. Arya's eyes widened. Shame tightened in her chest. I am so sorry, Your Highness. Mrs. Sharma was right. I am not fit for this role. Arnav lifted her chin with a single finger. At last, something we agree on. His voice was soft. Then, could you please release me from this role? Arya said, barely steady. You think it is that simple? Especially after what you've done to me. Arya stared at him, confused. For the first time, she felt there was something deeper behind his anger. Something personal. Something she did not understand. He stepped back. Return after my bath. You still have duties to attend to. He dismissed her with practiced ease. Thank you for listening. As the writer of this story, I have a question for you. What do you think fate has planned for Arya and Arnav? Every choice has a consequence. Every secret has a cost. And every path leads to a new challenge waiting to be faced. Will they lift each other up or tear each other apart? The answers await in the next episode. If you're enjoying the story, please like, subscribe, and follow the channel so you never miss an episode. Your support helps this story reach more listeners, and it truly means the world to this writer. See you next time.